Hi, my name is Mike, and I wanted to tell you guys a little bit of my story. So, first and foremost, before I get into this, I just want to let you guys know I am reading off of a Word document that I wrote to organize my thoughts. So, if this sounds scripted, it kind of is. It's like I might go off on a little bit of a tangent from the script, but these thoughts are my own that I wrote down over time. So, I kind of organized my story in chronological order, and I want to kind of put this all in perspective for you. So, a little bit about my background. So I grew up in a small town outside of Philadelphia, and I've lived in this area my whole life. Throughout the years, I've had to cope with having a sick father who ended up receiving a heart transplant, bullying, and some mental illness. A lot of mental illness. So in 2010, when I was in fourth grade, I began getting bullied. For those of you who know about eczema, I have eczema. For those of you who don't, basically it's just really dry skin. It gets really bad in the winter. But yeah, so I have eczema, and it led to me having frequently dry skin. So my skin was constantly peeling, especially until we got it under control. So initially, it started out as name call. The bullying started out as name calling. I got called things like crusty boy for my skin, pepperoni pizza boy because I have freckles. You can't really see it with this lighting, but I have a lot of freckles. So my freckles were my pepperoni. My skin was the crust. I guess my blood was the sauce. I don't know. So, it was name calling at first, and what initially started out is name calling became me getting treated like an outcast. I was the last to get picked in recess. I sat alone at my lunch table until Gino, who some of you guys know from watching my other videos, came over and sat with me. They treated me like I was a freak because of my skin condition. So, I remember that I hid it really well until Christmas of 2010. So my mom's sister and I, every Christmas, we baked cookies for the family parties that we would go to. And I always enjoyed it really, a lot. It was one of my favorite things to do. So while we were baking, I started crying out of nowhere. I started sobbing uncontrollably. And what happened was I was hearing all the things that they said, all the names they were calling me, and telling me that I didn't deserve to be loved. And I felt the pressure because that was when I was 11, so I was trying to figure out who I was. I was hitting puberty, my body was changing, and I felt the pressure of trying to figure out who I was, and I felt like I was failing my family, which seems like a lot of weight for an 11-year-old, but it'll make sense. So that was the first inkling my parents had that I was getting bullied. And then that was when we first started looking at transferring schools, and then the bullying became physical. So people started to push me, trip me, kick and punch, and then I transferred schools in 2011. I finally made friends at my new school, started to come into my own, but something still didn't feel right, So in 2011, I began seeing a psychologist. Very quickly, I was diagnosed with major depressive disorder as well as generalized anxiety disorder. For years, I continued to see that same psychologist on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, had your typical ups and downs, but as a teenager, for the most part, I struggled. So in 2013, I started high school. I took on the role of the kid that sits in the back of the class. I had friends... No one I want to make this clear if anybody from high school is seeing this. I didn't get bullied in high school. I had a really, just a general experience in high school. It wasn't very excellent. It wasn't bad. I was an average student. I had some teachers that were mentors, others that I didn't like, like every high school kid. And I got along with most people I got along with. I was conversational. I was kind of funny, So in 2015, I began to split my days at a VOTEC program, taking EMT school in the morning and regular classes in the afternoon. Successfully passed my EMT certification in 2016, and since I graduated high school in 2017, I've been working as an EMT. So I kept in contact with all of my EMS instructors, and all of them have constantly reminded me how proud they are of me, and my family likes to remind me, and everyone is very proud of the work I do. I'm proud of it myself. I don't really talk about it because anymore, I used to talk about it nonstop, but anymore I don't really talk about it because it's my life, and I just don't really want to talk about it much. And I also was volunteering as a junior firefighter. That since has subsided. I don't really volunteer anywhere. But I quickly found an extended family in my first responder community. A lot of my friends to this day are first responders. So in 2016, backtracking a little bit, I was diagnosed with Sherman's disease. So Sherman's disease is a degenerative spinal disease. Basically, your spine, to kind of put it in layman's terms, your spine collapses in on itself. So I started to have a hunchback posture. I had started to have wedged vertebrae, and then it started to sit on my lungs and compromise my breathing. So between my junior and senior year of high school, I had 11 vertebrae fused with 22 screws and 2 rods. I almost said 22 rods. So 2 rods and 22 screws. And then I was diagnosed with spondylolisthesis, which is basically a stress fracture of my 5th lumbar vertebrae. So to this day, I still have some lower back pain. I had to get spinal root injections for a while, and then finally got a successful root field ablation that took my pain from excruciating all the time to pretty manageable. So I still have some lower back pain, but it's definitely not as bad as it was. So after graduating high school, I went on to nursing school full time, which I'm still in, as well as I'm doing an emergency and disaster management program. So in 2019, this is where it's going to get dark. So in 2019, as an EMT, I responded to a call that changed my life. I'm not going to go into too much detail just because I really don't want to relive it. The incident resulted in me being diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder. After further investigation by my psychologist, it became apparent that the PTSD, I always had PTSD from being bullied, and that was kind of the source of my depression and my anxiety. So after being diagnosed with PTSD, I started on some antidepressants. I started taking Zoloft or sertraline, whatever you know it as. For a while, things seemed to get better, but I didn't like how it was making me feel. I didn't have any emotion. I just felt numb, so I stopped taking it. And then I went down a slippery slope and began struggling, and this part I haven't really talked about to anybody, but for 2 years I struggled with suicidal thoughts. Never attempted, never had a plan or anything. I just thought about it. Like, I'm not going to go into too much detail about that. I hid that very well from my friends and my family and those I was very close with, but I suffered, and silently I suffered. So finally, in January of 2021, I spoke with my parents about needing to see a psychiatrist, because at this point I kind of determined that I no longer was getting the help I needed from my psychologist. Nothing negative about him. He just didn't really know he just didn't really know how to treat me because I just wasn't feeling right. So I switched to a new psychologist and started seeing a psychiatrist. So in March of 2021, my psychiatrist diagnosed me with borderline personality disorder. I restarted antidepressants, started on Lexapro, and I was feeling okay on the depression scale of things, but I still didn't feel great. I was having delusions of grandeur, very impulsive, very bad mood swings. I wasn't going crazy, but I was feeling like I couldn't control myself at times. So you guys probably know where this is going. So in June of 2021, about 6 weeks ago from the time I'm recording this, my doctor diagnosed me with bipolar 2 disorder. So there's a difference between bipolar 1 and bipolar 2. Bipolar 2 basically means it's a little bit more manageable than bipolar 1. And my whole world with that diagnosis flipped upside down. I ended up telling myself I was crazy, that I got in my head really bad about it. So I talked with my closest friends, and every single one of my friends and family that I talked to about it, that knows about what's going on, reminded me that I'm still a great person, and bipolar disorder doesn't shape who I am. So I'm making this video is, like I said, 6 weeks post-diagnosis, and I'm on mood stabilizers and antidepressants. And for the first time in over 10 years, I'm finally smiling, I'm finally enjoying life, and I finally feel stable. So I'm not posting this, I don't want sympathy. I don't want you guys to say, like, oh, he's just posting this for a pity party, I'm posting this because I want to spread a very simple message. And that is to check on your friends and encourage them to seek help and look for signs that they're not doing well, even if they tell you they're doing well. Because I told everyone I was doing fine. And I'm not knocking my friends. I hid it very well. Just check on your friends and remind them, they're not weak for seeking help. They're strong for seeking help. And it's okay to have problems. It's okay to want to vent your frustrations. It's okay to not feel like yourself. It's okay. It's all normal. It's human emotion. So my struggle has been an ongoing battle that, for the most part, I've been fairly open about on my social media. You don't have to be open. I'm open about it because I want to be that person that tries to end the stigma around mental health. So I'm posting this not only for my friends and family, but for everyone in the world who needs to hear it. You're not alone, and I know that's the cliche thing to say, but you're not alone, and it's the truth. Everyone out there has something that bothers them. Everyone out there struggles at times, and it is okay to not be okay. For those of you that know me, I'm very friendly, I'm outgoing, I have a little bit of complex that I want to save the world, and I know I won't be able to, but if this video reaches one person that needs to hear this, I did my job. I'm a normal person, and just because you're struggling doesn't mean you're not a normal person. You don't need to live your life suffering in silence. Reach out to me, reach out to your friends and family, reach out to professionals and seek help. If they don't want to support you, they don't deserve you. Simple as that. Take it from me, someone who struggled over 10 years. You deserve to be heard, and you deserve to be happy. Please feel free to share this video with anyone you think may need to hear it. Thanks for watching or reading if you're reading the article I'm posting with this. Just remember the phone, if you need help or have thoughts of suicide, the phone number for the National Suicide Prevention Hotline is 1-800-273-8255.